my favorite vintage fragrances. So I'm a big enthusiast of vintage fragrances, and by vintage I mean, many, many decades old, but I'm just going to talk about them because I enjoy them so much. So, and as always, all the fragrances that I mentioned will be available in the Amazon associate links in the description below if you're interested. But the first one I'm going to start with is probably one of my absolute favorites, which is Youth Dew from Estee Lauder. So this came out in 1953, and it's just a really wonderful classic women's fragrance. Some people really, really hate it, and some people really, really love it. So it's really one of those love or hate type of fragrances. So I think it's so particular because it's a very strong type of fragrance. Definitely, especially compared to what you would expect from a woman's fragrance in today's perfume market, this is very different. In the 50s, and before, women's fragrances were actually pretty strong and pretty musky, which this is. Musky, spicy, incensey, resinous, just basically all the heaviest notes you could imagine thrown into one bottle. Really, really nice. There's also tons of florals in there. There's some rose notes in there. Very, very pleasant fragrance. Definitely strong enough where you only need to put on a few sprays, and you're good to go for the whole day. 8 to 9 hour longevity. Just really pleasant. If you enjoy strong fragrances, especially, musky and spicy, most likely you're going to enjoy Youth Dew. Again, just don't put on too much or you'll probably get a headache. But very pleasant. And I like that even though it does have a very strong opening and it stays strong for quite a while, after about an hour or two it becomes a little bit powdery, which is very nice. It kind of balances out its strength. And it's a very warm type of fragrance, which is, ideal for winter time, for autumn, that sort of thing. So just very, very nice to wear in general if you like heavier types of fragrances. And I like that it lasts a long time. I always enjoy fragrances that have very good longevity. Now, the next one I think is you kind of have to mention it, Chanel number 5, obviously. Again, I'm kind of surprised, but some people really hate Chanel number 5. I don't really know why. I think it's a really great fragrance. It's the best-selling fragrance in the world and has been for many decades. It came out in 1921, I believe, so pretty old. And basically, it's a floral aldehyde fragrance, very well put together. Has some civet notes. They used to use real civet. They don't use that anymore. They use a synthetic version, which does smell a little different from what I've told compared to the original bottles, but for the sake of the civets, for animal rights, it still smells really, really nice in my opinion. So it has that nice muskiness that undergoes the, the floral notes and the aldehydes. Very strong also. The thing about it is that even though it is overall a floral fragrance, the more musky notes ground it and allow it to have really good longevity for a floral fragrance. So I would say probably 7 to 8 hours of longevity. Very classic elegance here. No one can deny that Chanel number 5 is an elegant fragrance. Very good for the evening, cold weather, and I would say versatile enough to be worn year-round, which is always a bonus. Now, besides Chanel number 5, one that I have to mention, one of my favorites, is Shalimar from Guerlain. This is another 1920s fragrance. I believe it came out in I don't remember exactly, either 1925 or 1927. One of the two. But similar to Youth Dew in certain ways, it is a very strong type of fragrance, but in a few different ways. I would characterize Youth Dew as more of a spicy type of fragrance, while Shalimar is smoky. It is very, very smoky, very incensey, and very resinous. I always say it smells a little bit like frankincense to me. There's no actual frankincense notes in there, but there are several resin notes, so that kind of makes up for it. Also very musky, as you could imagine, and very long lasting. 9 hours minimum And what's nice about it, also kind of similar to Youth Dew, is that even though it is a very strong, very bold, powerful type of fragrance, it does dry down to a nice powderiness. So you get this mix of the musk and the powderiness, and there's even some citrus notes in there, some florals mixed with the resin. So it's really just a nice combination of many different notes to create something that smells very exotic. There are some spices in there, but it's not as spicy as Youth Dew. Again, more of a focus on the smoky nature of it. Now, for something less crazy strong, more maybe smooth, L'air du Temps from Nina Ricci is very, very pleasant. Very, it's a floral aldehyde fragrance, actually quite similar to Chanel No. 5, but less musky, more smooth and warm and floral. That, I believe it's a 1948 or 49 fragrance, definitely 1940s. Very, very pleasant. More of a, what you would think of a feminine fragrance, more, floral and a little bit sweet, but more of a natural sweetness. What I like most about it is that it has a nice warmth to it. I believe it has some amber, some lang lang, and that sort of thing. So very, very pleasant, and despite being a floral fragrance, it actually lasts quite a long time. I would say 7 hours on average, maybe even 8 in certain occasions, but not as strong as these other ones, but still quite powerful. A lot of the vintage fragrances, they had some stronger base notes, which allowed for greater longevity, which is always nice in my opinion. Now, besides L'air du Temps, which is actually like in my top 5 of all my favorite fragrances, just in general, I do have to also mention Le Mans from Coty. So this is actually considered a drugstore fragrance these days, but it wasn't always like that. It was actually, it's actually 1920s fragrance. I believe it came out a few years after Chanel No. 5 actually, so maybe 1925 or something along those lines. But it used to be quite a luxurious fragrance, but now it has been more recently reduced to a drugstore fragrance, it's very affordable. It's actually another type of floral aldehyde fragrance, but I would say more than anything it is a powdery fragrance. Very nice, powdery, clean type of fragrance, which I really enjoy. If I want something a little bit lighter, a little bit, not as crazy heavy as Shalimar or Youth Dew. It doesn't have great longevity, mainly because, it's just light. The quality has gone down a little bit because of, I guess, the decades have taken its toll, but it does still smell very nice. You get the whole bottle for probably under $20, so just a good deal to have it. But in general, those are pretty much my favorite vintage fragrances. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if you did, of course, you can leave a like and maybe subscribe, and I make videos throughout the week, so stick around for those.